You're 6 years old when the soldiers come. Your village is small, barely a name on any map tucked into the hills where Thrace meets the sea. You're carrying a clay jug to the well when you hear the screaming start. Your mother told you once, if strangers come, run to the forest and hide. But your legs don't move. You stand frozen, watching smoke rise from the direction of your home. By sunset, your village doesn't exist anymore. By the following morning, you're walking in a line of roped children towards a city you've never seen. The trader examines you like livestock. Teeth, eyes, limbs. He pinches your arms, checks your scalp for lice, makes you walk back and forth so he can assess your gait. You pass inspection. You're young, healthy, and female. That last detail will shape everything that follows. You're sold in Corinth to a man named Heracles. He owns a women's bathhouse near the Agora, one of the nicer establishments, he brags, where respectable wives and wealthy widows come to wash away the grime of the city. The building smells of olive oil and rosemary, and something underneath that you'll later recognize as desperation. He pays 9 drachmas for you. You're given a new name, Melissa. It means bee. He thinks it's clever because you'll spend your life working. The other slaves teach you hierarchy quickly. At the bottom are the water carriers and scrubbers, children like you, too young for anything else. Above them are the attendants who oil and massage the patrons. Above them are the women who do other things spoken about only in whispers. At the top is Karina, the head slave. She's been there 19 years. Her face is unreadable. Her voice never rises, and the other slaves obey her without question. She looks at you on your first night and says, "Forget your old name. Forget your mother's face. Forget the village. That girl died on the road. You're Melissa now. Melissa survives." You cry yourself to sleep for 3 weeks. Then, you stop crying entirely. At 8, your body becomes your first tool. You carry water from dawn until your arms shake. The amphorae are clay, heavy even when empty, brutal when full. You develop calluses that crack and bleed, then harden into something like leather. Your shoulders reshape themselves around the labor. But the water carrying is the easy part. The bathhouse serves women, citizens' wives, merchants' daughters, visiting dignitaries, and they expect service that goes beyond cleanliness. You learn to anticipate needs before they're spoken. A towel warmed to the perfect temperature. Oil scented with the patron's preferred flowers. Silence when silence is wanted. Gossip when gossip is currency. You learn that wealthy women can be as cruel as any man. One matron slaps you across the face because the water is too hot. Another pinches the soft flesh of your inner arm, twisting until you gasp because you looked at her too directly. A third reports to Heracles that you were insolent, and you're whipped in the courtyard while the other slaves watch. You weren't insolent. You simply existed in her line of sight at the wrong moment. But a slave's truth means nothing against a citizen's word. You learn to make yourself small, invisible, present only as function, never as person. At 11, you move to the massage rooms. This is considered advancement. The work is less physically brutal than carrying water, but it requires a different kind of endurance. You're taught to knead oil into flesh, to find the knots of tension in shoulders and backs, to apply pressure that relieves without bruising. Your hands become instruments, sensitive to temperature, texture, the minute feedback of muscle and bone. The women who come here talk as though you're furniture. They discuss their husbands, failures, their children's marriages, their rival scandals. They speak of money, property, affairs, poisonings they've heard about, divorces being arranged. You absorb it all without expression, filling away information you don't yet understand. Karina notices your memory. Careful, she warns. Knowing too much is dangerous. Knowing too much and showing it is fatal. You learn to cultivate blankness, a face that reveals nothing, eyes that see everything, a mouth that never repeats what it shouldn't. This makes you valuable. Valuable slaves survive longer. At 13, your body changes, and so does your danger. You develop curves that the chitin can't entirely hide. Patrons begin to look at you differently, appraising, calculating. Some request you specifically, not for your skill, but for your appearance. And then there's Heracles. He's watched you grow. He's waited. One evening after the bathhouse closes, he calls you to his private quarters. You know what's coming. Every slave girl knows. He doesn't ask. Owners don't need to ask. Afterward, you wash yourself in cold water until your skin is raw, scrubbing at something that won't come off. You report for duty the next morning as though nothing happened. You carry towels, heat water, massage a merchant's wife who complains about her sciatica. This becomes routine, once a week, sometimes twice. You learn to leave your body during those times, to retreat to somewhere inside your skull where nothing can touch you. Karina sees the change in you. She doesn't offer comfort. Comfort is a luxury slaves can't afford. But she adjusts your schedule, so you're never alone in the building after dark. It's not enough to stop him. Nothing could stop him. But it is something. And sometimes, something is all you get. At 15, you witness your first murder. A new slave named Phoebe arrives. Young, pretty, defiant in ways that make the older women wince. She refuses a patron's advances too directly. She speaks back to Heracles. She hasn't learned yet that resistance must be invisible to succeed. One morning, she doesn't wake up. Karina finds her on her sleeping mat, lips blue, body cold. The official explanation is illness, a fever that took her in the night. But you saw Heracles enter the slave quarters that evening before with a small vial in his hand. You say nothing. You understand now that silence isn't cowardice, it's survival. Phoebe died because she made herself visible. You will live because you remain a shadow. That night, you make a decision. You'll outlast this place. You will endure whatever it takes, learn whatever you must, and one day, somehow, you will be free. It's not a plan. It's barely even hope. But it is a direction. At 17, you're promoted to Karina's assistant. She's growing older, her joints swelling with a pain that makes the massage work difficult. You take over more of her duties, managing schedules, ordering supplies, mediating disputes among the slaves. You also inherit her network. Karina has spent 2 decades collecting information. She knows which patrons are having affairs, which merchants are in debt, which officials take bribes. This information flows through the bathhouse like water through pipes, and Karina has positioned herself at the junction. Information is the only power a slave can hold, she tells you. Use it carefully. Never threaten directly. Never reveal your source. Plant seeds and let others do the harvesting. You learn to trade whispers for favors. A senator's wife wants to know if her husband visits the heteri. You confirm it, and she ensures your workload lightens. A merchant's daughter needs to know if her suitor is truly wealthy. You discover he's drowning in debt, and she gives you a silver bracelet you hide beneath a loose stone. Small accumulations, tiny advantages. The bracelet alone won't buy your freedom, but it is a start. At 19, you fall in love with someone you cannot have. Her name is Anthe. She works in the adjoining establishment, a bathhouse for men, and you meet at the shared well each morning. She's a slave too, owned by a different master, trapped in a different cage. But when she laughs, you forget the cage exists. Your love is conducted in fragments, stolen glances, brushed fingers, whispered conversations disguised as arguments over well access. Once, hidden behind the courtyard wall, she kisses you, brief and terrified and overwhelming. You know this is dangerous, not just because you're both slaves, but because this kind of love is tolerated only when it serves citizen entertainment. 2 slave women finding genuine happiness in each other, that's not entertainment, that's subversion. So you're careful. You meet in shadows. You speak in code. You build an entire relationship in the margins of your servitude. For 2 years, she's the reason you survive. At 21, Xanthi is sold to a household in Syracuse. You learn this from another slave, casually mentioned as though it's not the demolition of everything that made your life bearable. She's gone. No warning. No goodbye. The distance between Corinth and Syracuse might as well be the distance to the underworld. You'll never see her again. Never know if she's well or suffering, or even alive. You return to the bathhouse and work a 12-hour shift without error. You smile at patrons, you heat water to the perfect temperature, you massage a politician's wife who tips you 3 obols for your gentle hands. Then you return to your sleeping mat, face the wall, and scream silently into the darkness until your throat is raw and your eyes are dry. This is grief when you have no right to grieve. It has no witness, no ritual, no acknowledgement, only the absence, vast and permanent, where love used to be. At 23, Heracles dies, a stomach ailment, the physicians say. Something he ate. He spends 4 days in agony, vomiting blood and bile before finally succumbing. You attend his sickbed when summoned. You bring him water he cannot keep down. You watch him suffer with a face carefully arranged into concern. You tell no one about the herbs you've been studying, about the knowledge Karina passed to you before her own death 2 winters ago. Which plants heal and which destroy, which symptoms they cause, and how long they take to work. You tell no one that his wine tasted strange to him on the evening his illness began. Some things are better left unspoken. His son inherits the bathhouse. He's young, inexperienced, and distracted by his own ambitions. He needs someone to manage the daily operations, someone who knows every corner of the business, every patron's preference, every slave's capability. He needs you. Within a year, you're running the establishment in all but name. You handle accounts, negotiate with suppliers, resolve disputes. The son collects the profits and leaves you alone. This is not freedom, but it is the closest thing you've tasted. At 26, you begin purchasing your own freedom. The law allows slaves to accumulate a peculium, personal savings with the owner's permission. You approach the son with a proposal. You'll continue managing the bathhouse, increasing its profits, in exchange for the right to save toward manumission. He agrees. You're too valuable to lose, and a slave with hope of freedom works harder than one without. You don't tell him about the money already hidden, the bracelet, the coins skimmed carefully over the years, the small payments from patrons who wanted discretion more than they wanted receipts. That money stays beneath the stone. For 6 years, you save openly and secretly, both ways. You deny yourself everything that isn't essential. You watch other slaves spend their small earnings on wine, on trinkets, on brief pleasures that make the present bearable. You invest in the future instead. At 32, you buy your freedom. The manumission document is signed before witnesses. Your name is recorded in official registers. You're no longer property. You stand outside the bathhouse where you've spent 26 years, more than 3/4 of your life, and you don't feel what you expected to feel. No triumph, no joy, just a hollow exhaustion, as though you've been holding your breath for decades and finally released it. And now you don't remember how to breathe normally. You have money enough to survive the first year, skills enough to find work, knowledge enough to navigate a world that's suddenly terrifyingly open. But you also have a body shaped by labor, a mind scarred by what you've witnessed, and a heart that learned long ago to protect itself by feeling nothing at all. Freedom isn't healing. Freedom is just a different kind of survival. Years later, you'll own a small perfume shop near the harbor. You'll mix oils and essences, creating scents that wealthy women pay handsomely for. You'll hire workers, free workers, always free, and you pay them fairly. You'll never marry, but you'll build a household of chosen family. Other freed women, other survivors, other ghosts who learn to walk among the living. Sometimes you'll smell rosemary and olive oil and feel the steam of the bathhouse on your skin. Sometimes you'll dream of a girl named Xanthi who kissed you once behind a courtyard wall. Sometimes you'll pass a slave in the market, young, thin, eyes already learning to see without being seen. And you'll remember when that was you. You'll give her a coin. It's not enough. Nothing is enough. But it is something. And you learned long ago that sometimes something is all you get. This is what it costs to survive as a bathhouse slave in ancient Greece. Your body, your name, your love, your softness. What it turns you into is harder to name. Something between broken and unbreakable. Something that walks free, but never forgets the weight of chains. Something that learned power is knowledge, patience is strategy, and survival is its own kind of victory. Even when victory feels like nothing at all.